Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Steam Forward podcast. As always, I'm your host, Savannah, and today our podcast episode is all about our summer camp theme, The Land. And so every year we have different themes. And so Frost Science Museum, they help create curriculum along with a lot of our staff here at GEN2050 to curate things for students to learn all about our themes. So this year's summer camp is The Land. So today we thought it would be fun, it would be important, it's almost imperative that maybe we give you some facts about the lands, some challenges about the lands, and how we can take some action, how we can help make the land a better place today. So I'm going to jump into it with some facts.
Steam Forward Podcast.
So in GEN2050, we also have a technology platform that we like to use called Avatar, a Buddy, and it is partnered with OpenAI, so it uses ChatGPT. And so we thought it would be fun today to ask Avatar Buddy some facts, some challenges, and some action steps that we can take towards the land today. So today I asked about, give us some interesting, fun, curious facts. So our first fact is with mountains, and it says Mount Everest, the tallest mountain in the world, grows about 0.16 inches taller each year due to tectonic plate movements. The Andes Mountains in South America are the longest continental mountain range in the world, stretching over 4,300 miles. The Himalayas are home to more than 50 peaks exceeding 23,600 feet in height. I think that is insane that those kind of things exist. I haven't honestly ever really seen a mountain. I've been to the Smoky Mountains. I've seen some volcanoes in Hawaii, but I've never seen mountains this big or this tall. So I want to move down to rivers, and it says the Amazon River in South America is the largest river in the world by discharge volume, according to about 1/5 of the total river flow globally. That's insane. The Nile River in Africa is often considered the longest river in the world, with a length of approximately 4,135 miles. The Mississippi River in North America is one of the largest rivers in the world and has the third largest draining basin, covering 1.2 million square miles. And so I actually used to live in Mississippi, so I've seen the Mississippi River. I've drove across it, been through it, touched it. It is pretty big. It's pretty awesome how it goes all the way up the United States of America. And so I want to move down to caves because I've seen some caves. I've actually been to this first fact about cave. And it says Mammoth Cave in Kentucky, USA is the longest known cave system in the world with over 400 miles of explored passageways. The Song Dune Cave in Vietnam is the largest cave in the world by volume, capable of fitting the entire New York City block inside of its caverns. That would be a beautiful place to go to one day. And so let's jump into volcanoes. I've seen volcanoes a few times, and I thought these had some interesting facts. It says the Mauna Loa in Hawaii is the largest active volcano on this earth, and also the largest subaerial volcano in both mass and volume. Mount Tambora's eruption in 1815 is considered the most powerful volcanic eruption in the recorded history, causing a global temperature drop and leading to a year without a summer in 1816. The Yellowstone in Wyoming, USA is one of the largest supervolcanoes on Earth and has experienced 3 massive eruptions in the past 2.1 million years. I really want to go to the Yellowstone one day. And so I think the islands have a cool fact. It says Easter Island, famous for its Moyo statues, is one of the most remote inhabited islands in the world, located over 2,000 miles off the coast of Chile. And just some facts about the forest. It says the Amazon rainforest is home to approximately 10% of the world's known species and produces about 20% of the world's oxygen. The taiga, also known as the boreal forest, is the world's largest terrestrial biome, covering vast areas of North America, Europe, and Asia. The Dane tree forest in Australia is one of the oldest tropical rainforests in the world. estimated to be about 180 million years old. And as we scroll along, there was another one I really wanted to hit, and that was land use and conservation. The Greenbelt in England is a ring of protective countryside surrounding major urban areas intended to prevent urban sprawl and promote environmental conservation. The Serengeti Mara ecosystem in East Africa is one of the last remaining large-scale terrestrial ecosystems supporting a diverse array of wildlife and serving as a critical area for conservation efforts. So I thought there's so much more, and you're more than welcome to go on OpenAI, on Avatar Buddy to know some more facts. But I think that pointing out all these wonderful and beautiful things, I've had the experience to experience a lot of what the earth has to offer. I've been to the Grand Canyon. I've been able to go to Hawaii. I've seen mountains and caves. I've been in beautiful oceans. I've even lived in Japan. So I think that what I'm trying to say is that all these beautiful wonders that are put here, there can be lots of challenges and lots of harm that are done. And I thought that it would be important to explain what happens to some of these beautiful things. Because when you Google and you research, there are some beautiful things that used to exist a long time ago that are no longer here, or a lot of these wonderful and marvelous landmarks are now in danger. And so some of the reasons may be deforestation. Deforestation primarily is driven by an agriculture expansion, logging, and urbanization. It results in the permanent removal of forest, leading to habitat loss, biodiversity decline, and soil erosion. So then there's soil degradation. Soil degradation is caused by erosion, salinization, so too much salt, compaction, and contamination. It threatens agricultural productivity, food security, and ecosystem resilience. Intensive agriculture practices, deforestation, and improper land management contribute to soil degradation, compromising its ability to support plant life and maintain essential ecosystem functions. So also there's urbanization and land conversion. I think we see this the most in South Florida. And urbanization and land conversion of infrastructures, developing housing, industrialization that lead to habitat fragmentation, the loss of biodiversity, and there's an increase on pressure of natural resources. Rapid urban expansion often occurs at the expense of valuable ecosystems, agricultural land, and green spaces, contributing to environmental degradation, air and water pollution, and social inequities. So there's climate change impacts, and I think we know a lot about climate change. And with the rising temperatures, there's changes in landfall distribution. The sea levels rise are threatening the ecosystems, the agriculture productivity, water resources, coastal communities. There's just a lot of vulnerability and lots of displacement. And I think one that I think is honestly the most important is the loss of biodiversity. The loss of biodiversity is driven by habitat destruction, pollution, invasive species, the climate change, and it undermines ecosystem stability's resilience and the provision of ecosystem services. Biodiversity loss reduces genetic biodiversity. It impairs the ecosystem functions such as pollination and the nutrient cycle. And it diminishes the ability for ecosystems to adapt into environmental changes, threatening global food security and human well-being. And so I know some of that stuff can be kind of scary because it seems like there's nothing that we can do to fix these problems, or there's no solutions for us. But there's always a solution to the problem. So I thought that to wrap up this podcast, that it would be important to give you guys some solutions or some things that we can work on personally to make sure that we're helping saving the land and the earth that we reside on. And so for number one, it says promote sustainable land use. Advocate for policies and practices that prioritize sustainable land management, including reforestation, afforestation, and agroforestry to restore degraded lands and enhance ecosystem resilience. Support sustainable agriculture methods such as organic farming, agroecology, permaculture, and minimize soil erosion, conserve water, and reduce chemical inputs. You can also reduce your consumption and waste. Reduce the consumption of goods and resources by opting for durable, reusable products, minimizing packaging waste, and practicing mindful consumption habits. Recycle, compost, and properly dispose of waste and minimize pollution and conserve natural resources and support initiatives that promote circular economic principles. Another way is you can conserve natural habitats. Protect and conserve natural habitats, including forests, wetlands, grasslands, and coastal areas through the establishment of protected areas, wildlife reserves, and ecological corridors. Support habitat restoration projects and initiatives aimed at preserving biodiversity and enhancing ecosystem services such as watershed protection and carbon sequestration. So conserve natural habitats. When you go experience these beautiful landmarks and all that the world has to offer, you don't have to touch. You don't have to touch. You don't have to be in it, but observe from afar. Pictures tell 1,000 words, so a picture is just enough. Another thing is you can promote climate action, advocate for policies and actions that mitigate climate change, including reducing greenhouse gas emissions, transitioning to renewable energy sources, and promoting energy efficient measures. You can raise awareness in education, raise awareness by environmental issues and the importance of land conservation through education, outreach, and advocacy efforts in schools, community, and online platforms. Foster a deeper connection to nature and promote environmental stewardship through outdoor education, nature-based learning experience, and citizen science initiatives. I'm going to do a selfless promo and say enroll your students into GEN2050 because we do all those things, okay? And then for final thing, and I think that this is the most important thing, we can do our part, but we're so small in this big world. And yes, your impact makes a difference. But the only way we'll see a true difference is if we can get policies, that we can get legislation, that we can get people on board to begin to be on our side that have bigger power than us. And so that's engage in advocacy and policy change. Advocate for stronger environmental regulations, policies, and enforcement mechanisms at a local, national, and international level to address land degradation, habitat loss, pollution, and climate change. Engage in grassroots activism, participate in community organizations, and support environmental campaigns and initiatives aimed at promoting sustainable land management and conservation. So it starts with you. If we want to see a change and we want to be able to make sure that we get to experience all that this land has to offer us, because it's beautiful, it's wonderful, it's breathtaking, it's life-changing, we have to make sure that we're doing our part and making sure that we conserve this beautiful land. Also, it would be extremely irresponsible of me not to promote GEN2050 Summer Camp. I mean, our theme is the land. We just spoke all about it. In this summer, your students will learn even more about the land and things that we can do to help save the land. And so in the description, there's going to be a link to register your students. Remember, it's middle schoolers and high schoolers, but we also have another program available for K through 5th. And just to wrap up this podcast, I'm going to end it with a word of the day, and that is possible. That anything is possible with you. Anything is possible that you put your mind to. Anything is possible when you take the action step and say, this needs to be better. It takes you to make things possible. So that's it for this podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
And as always, a special thanks to our sponsors, the Children's Trust and Trinity Church. And don't forget that there are 3 ways in which you can listen or watch this podcast. If you'd like to listen, follow us on Apple or Spotify. If you'd like to watch, follow us on YouTube. Make sure that you subscribe, like, and click that bell for post notifications.
Steam Forward